Hey everyone, welcome to the 34th episode of the Wheels Walking Podcast, a podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a guy not in a wheelchair.
What up?
Yo, I feel like I'm always, like, when I send out my thank you Patreon videos, I always have a little spiel that I say before my actual thank you in the same way that I start the episode every time, basically the same way.
What's your spiel?
So I go, thank you so much for your support. Your support is going to help me to continue to make other awesome videos for other wheelchair users. And then I dive into what I'm doing. So I'll be like, I'm in the studio right now, just hanging out, getting some work done. I just got finished doing this, got finished doing that. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I actually like it better when people like you get involved versus when like corporations or companies get involved because it's more personal, yada, yada, yada. Like, but I always open it with the same thing, just like I open.
You know what's funny is I've noticed on like your stories, whenever you do a video, you always kind of like slowly like gyrate around. You're always like, "What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be doing this." Like
it's movement. I don't know. I always like I am very physical with my hands and with my torso and my head. I'm always like, I know, it's just funny. I'm always vibing and jiving and talking and being like, "Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast." And if you're on YouTube, you can see what I'm doing. If you're
holding your phone, you can't really scoot around very easily either.
Exactly. So you gotta, like, I can't like walk around. I have to like keep my my motion stuff. And all right, guys, so we want to talk about a topic without actually talking about the topic.
Well, we're going to talk about the topic, but we're not going to do what we're talking about.
All right, so here's the thing, and I just want to bring this up to everyone. I'm not trying to be, I guess, mean or aggressive or rude, but like we have been getting a lot of feedback about cursing on the podcast. And I just want to first say that if you would like a curse-free experience, just go to the main channel. The main channel has no cuss words.
The main YouTube channel where we post all of our like wheelchair videos.
We post all the videos, and even in the podcast group, we tend to like post up like funny memes and funny videos, and like we're more inappropriate there. Like this is not the main channel. Like yes, we do have brands that sponsor us on here, and that's cool because they're cool with us doing whatever.
Yeah, but the point is, I think there's a lot of people commenting on it, and that is like, it seems like it's a lot of people, but really it's not a lot because we're getting, like 1,000 people listening to each episode, ish. And there's like one or two comments about cussing. Obviously, I'm sure that there's people that maybe that you've seen.
No, I get a lot of private messages about it.
Oh yeah, true, on private messages. But I've seen some stuff in the Facebook group, and I've seen some reviews on iTunes and stuff like that about, oh, I think the show's great. I just wish they wouldn't cuss so much or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I had the same feedback when I first started my podcast. But Richard and I listen to a ton of podcasts, and all the podcasts that we listen to pretty much swear. Pretty much all of them are pretty heavy on swearing. And granted, a lot of them are comedy podcasts, so like that kind of comes with the territory. But I mean, I would say that the reason why people come to a podcast is because it's 100% unfiltered.
Absolutely.
And when you cuss,
unfiltered, uncensored. And
when you cuss, you're basically sending like a dog whistle to the audience of saying like, yo, I ain't gonna sugarcoat this. I'm not gonna talk about, I'm not trying to spin this anyway. I'm spitting my true feelings, and that's why I'm talking so loosely.
And this is audio first, so we use cursing to grab your attention and to invoke emphasis on things we're trying to say and to deliver passion and
but we also are throwing in F-bombs unnecessarily sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just how we talk, though. Like, the whole point of a podcast is to make the viewers feel like they're in the room with us hanging out.
But the only reason why I bring that up is I think some people can make the argument like, no, you guys are cussing every 2 seconds, so when you do it, actually, it's not having real emphasis because you do it all the time, so it doesn't even have any meaning anymore.
Okay, decent argument. I'll bite. But I also think about even censorship in the sense of, like, when you listen to a song and they change the lyric, or you listen to you're watching a TV show on a network and they beep it.
You know exactly what they're saying.
You know what they're saying anyway. Are your ears just so fragile that you can't take a word? Like, we're going to do this whole segment about cursing without cursing. So the people that do not like cursing will actually listen to it and hopefully understand the perspective that we're coming from here. Because I know for me, like, I speak with intensity and with passion, and I cuss. Dude, I cuss in front of my mom. You know what I mean? Like, even when I was like in like corporate America or whatever, I mean, on the clock with customers, I might every now and then, but only after I kind of gauged who I was talking to.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely can.
And like my management, obviously, you know, like when we were behind the store, you know, in the back of the store and we were closing down, you know, like there's always opportunities to curse. And I don't think it's bad. I don't think like, and some people are like, oh, well, don't say GD. That's taking the Lord's name in vain. Well, I mean, I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in that kind of thing. And maybe you do. And I'm sorry if that upsets you and I'm sorry if that offends you. But again, like it's a word and we're not using it for like hate, or we're not using it to like be rude or be mean or be negative. It's literally, I mean, I think it's more insulting when I'm talking to someone like, oh man, shut the F up. And I'm like, just say it. Like, why did you, like,
yeah.
Why don't you have to,
I think
just say it?
To get deeper into it, I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, because, I mean, obviously we're in the United States. There's a lot of puritanical values that have been, like, very closely tied in with our nation.
I mean, we were founded by prudes. Like, the reason...
Literally, founded by prudes.
Like, the reason the Puritans, literally, think about the word, Puritans, moved from UK, Britain to here was to escape and create their own religion. They created their own here, and it's like...
Well, it wasn't to create their own religion, but yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons they wanted to do it. Was to
freedom of religion.
Freedom of religion, have their own sect, to be able to do... So they didn't want to always, like, you know...
Yeah, but...
Do whatever the traditional religious values were or whatever. So it's like... That's why sexuality is also, like... Although it's used extremely heavy in advertising, like just in regular, you know, community, it's like, shh, don't talk about the sex. You know, it's like, don't say 4-letter words. And it's like, come on, people. Like,
well, it's interesting because I've been listening to this podcast called Catlick. It's by this dude named BT Harmon that lives in Cabbagetown, and it's this whole I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost kind of like true crime, but like it's retelling history. And one of the interesting things that one of the main stories that's pervasive is about like this Black Jack the Ripper, this serial killer that was in Atlanta in like the early 10s, and I think it was like 1910s, which isn't that long ago if you think about it.
Not long
and
at all.
Like no one, it's crazy because I'm hearing these stories for the first time. I'm like, I've never heard this before. But one of the funny things that he talks about is like, he reads a lot of newspapers from the time so that he can actually give like a real sense of like what was happening. And one of the things that he said was like, anytime they ever talked about like a rape in the newspaper, like they'd just say it was like assault, or like they'd never mention the word sex or anything like that, even in like the 1910s and stuff, because it was so frowned upon to talk about that publicly.
Like a woman got attacked in the park alone at night, and it's like, oh, you mean she got raped? But
it's funny because if you think about it, I mean, you don't even have to think about it that hard. It's like the only reason why any of us here exist is because of sex, right? Like, and it's just so funny that that was such a taboo subject that they didn't even want to talk about it. But meanwhile, everyone's doing it behind closed doors, because if they weren't, none of us would exist, bro. Like, there's children walking around. How do you think they came around? Because everyone had sex. So it's just like so silly, because we have these things that we keep behind closed doors, and we say like, no, you can't do this in public. It's frowned upon. It's against the Lord. It's against this, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of like, what, you know, you're saying that it's wrong to do this because of your values. Well, what if my values say it's not wrong? Which set of values is the right one? You know, it's kind of like, well, I think all religions are fine as long as it works for you. Well, what if my religion says yours is a lie?
Well, that's the argument. You know? A lot of people use religion as a base argument.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where even we could dive into like offense or like being offended. Like, people think that you can give offense. I don't think that's true. I think you can only receive offense. And what I mean,
take offense.
Yeah, take offense. And I guess what I mean by that is there are some people literally that would be offended if I said the world was round. They would be utterly offended. Am I going to stop saying the world is round? No, because they're wrong. In the same way that, like, I'm not going to stop cussing because you're upset, because you're offended. That sounds like a personal problem. That sounds like you're the one who needs to do some work on you. And
because if the one thing that you don't like is just that I'm saying a few quote unquote bad words, then, and you're just ignoring the rest of what we're saying, then like you said, it's kind of like, that sounds like it's on you versus us.
And it's like, if you want to plug your ears and run away and turn this off, fine. If you want to, like go hide in the corner, it's funny. And I found usually it's like people that are usually more conservative and people that are usually a little bit older are the ones that take such offense to swearing. But in the same breath, they'll be like, gosh, can you believe all those millennials? They get just so offended all the time. Like, I can't even say that blah, blah, blah. And they get so offended. Like, they get
snowflakes.
Those snowflakes. And it's like, you're a snowflake. Like, if you, like, I don't know.
If you're offended by the F word,
yeah,
you are a snowflake.
Like, I just get tired of this whole, like, don't cuss because I want to watch your stuff. And I'm like, okay. That's why we don't cuss on the main channel. Like, we used to cuss, and very rarely would we cuss. And then we got some advice from someone who said, hey,
what do you think?
Maybe you guys shouldn't cuss as much. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. And I thought about it for a long time. We didn't implement it for a while. And then I thought, okay, maybe this person has a point because we might be like messing with our own money here. Like we might be potentially, because like we want to work with brands that sell to kids. And if brands sell to kids, that automatically makes them a family-friendly brand, and family-friendly brands want to advertise in family-friendly places. And
why is cussing not family-friendly though? That's kind of the interesting thing. I want you to keep going, but it's like
I would like you to dive into that.
Why, like, should kids be allowed to cuss? Anyways, keep going though.
And I want to dive in on that too. So, it's a family friendly thing. So we thought, okay, we'll clean up the main channel, but we're definitely going to keep going on the podcast. From the beginning, this podcast is named the Wheels to Walking Podcast, but any of you guys that listen know that this content is very different from what we put on the main channel. Main channel is very precise. It's 10 to 15 minutes long. It's usually one topic, one title. It's all wheelchair specific all the time. This is multiple topics, not wheelchair specific
all the time.
Current event
like
stuff.
Today we don't even really have any wheelchair topics except for the bloopers that we're going to go through. But yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of people for example, I used to listen to Casey Neistat's podcast, and it would piss me off when he would beep the cuss words. Cause I'm like, dude, just say, like, just like, I'm not a child. I can hear what you're trying to say. And it's funny because on his YouTube channel, he wouldn't really cuss very much. And then on his podcast, him and his wife, when they get together, they're like, his wife especially is like sailor mouth.
Would you know the story behind why he doesn't cuss on the main channel?
Well, I mean, I don't know the main story.
It was a similar situation to us. Someone came up to him at a conference or an event and was like, I love your videos. I love what you have to say about life, but I can't show it to my kids because you cuss. And he was like, fair enough. And that was that.
But the thing is, it was like they were doing like a sponsorship with Anchor on his podcast and stuff. And like Anchor was producing it and they didn't want to be producing a show. I don't know. It was like a weird situation where.
But that's where we have the benefit of being able to say what we want to say. Because we're not controlled by a network. We are the network. We're the distributors. Like, we do everything.
And that's why I loved his Twitch channel. He only did it for like a few weeks, but he was Twitch streaming like every day. And I loved it because it was 100% unfiltered. It was just him hanging out, talking with his friends, and I'm like, this is what I want to hear. This is what I want to see. I want to see Casey with his shoes off and like how he would be if there was no cameras around.
Super uncurated.
And that's how we want this show to feel more, is like, we don't want it to feel like Richard's reading from a script or anything like that. Like, I mean, or
we're trying to make a video. We're just trying to kick it, man.
Yeah, some of our videos, like, literally we're like reading from a script and we're trying to like keep it short and concise. And this is the place where you come to hang out with us and get to know us better. And for better or for worse, in real life, we tend to swear a decent bit.
And again, it's not without. Like, people,
we understand
people will say the F word is lazy. They're like, the F word's lazy because that means you're not articulate and you can't think of other things to say. And sure, if I was going F the effing F and F that and F this and F, sure, you're right. But we don't do that. We use it for emphasis. We use it mostly for an expression. Like, it's...
I don't know. I'm not going to defend the fact that I've been lazy on the podcast and just said the F word because I've been like lazy with it.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
disagree.
I'm not disagreeing with that either.
I don't even think
Yeah.
I tend to throw it around, but the thing is like
we do that in real life.
yeah, we're
That's just
doing that in
what we
real life.
do.
Like I don't think we need to defend it and be like I only use the F word when I'm trying to put severe emphasis on something. That's BS because I don't do that. Like I use it all the time, but it's because I think when you are just throwing it around all the time, that's a sign that you're literally just saying what's on your mind. Like you're not trying to like package it in any sort of way. And whether you want to call it lazy or not, that's up to you. But I don't know.
So
but
that was sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say like as far as whether you think it's wrong or right to do it, I think language is kind of an interesting topic because like for example
It's monkey sounds.
it is monkey sounds because everything is in context, right? If I go to Italy and I say the F word, I'm not going to say it because we're trying to like not say it during this segment because so hopefully everyone will listen to it. But no one's going to bat an eye because it doesn't like mean anything there, right?
Yeah.
If I said another word over there that I didn't even know was a bad word and I accidentally say it and everyone it's funny because I could say that here and no one will bat an eye. And it's literally, like you said, it's just noises. And whether you want to be offended by it or not, obviously language does have meaning behind it. Like there's no denying that language is a huge part of like how we interact. And like without language, we wouldn't have advanced as a society. And there are implications. If you just boil it down to noises, that's kind of a silly argument. I agree. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you are choosing to not listen to the podcast simply because of a few different words that we're using, maybe this podcast isn't for you, and like that's okay. And I think that's kind of the decision that I had to come to with my podcast as well, was like, I don't know the best way to success, but I know the quickest way to failure is trying to please everybody. And I think that if we started to try to be squeaky clean and we're always trying to catch ourselves, like a second ago, I almost said it, but then I'm like, oh, I almost said it. Oh, if we were trying to like censor ourselves all the time,
dancing around words is so annoying.
Our biggest fans and our biggest people that watch us would be like, dude, I don't like this anymore. I liked them when they were just like free flowing. I don't know.
And I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned about the idea of like kids cussing, and
Yeah.
I'll even bring Casey back into it. So Casey was on Phil's podcast.
Yeah.
And
Philip DeFranco.
Yeah, Casey Neistat was on Philip DeFranco's podcast, and he was talking because they both have kids around the same age, and those kids play together, and they were talking about cussing. He's like, "Do you let your kids cuss?" And he says, "Yeah, if it's a good cuss." He goes, "If it actually like fits the situation." He was saying how he was at a grocery store, he was in line, there was 10 people in line, they were in the back of the line, there was one register, and his little daughter looked at him and goes, "Daddy, this is an S show." And he's like, I can't be mad at her because she's right. It is an S show. It is a complete disaster. And yeah, sure, she's 4, 5, 6. I don't even know how old Franny is right now. But he's like, she just was like, wow, this is an S show. And it's like, yep, you are correct. Like, that is accurate. And I even think about like how Gary Vee talks about like cussing. He's like, I cuss in front of my friends, I cuss in conferences, I cuss in business meetings. He's like, that's just how I talk. And he's like, I want to be the most authentic version of myself at all times. And the only way I can do that is to cuss. And if you don't like me cussing, that means you don't like me being authentic. And if you don't like me being authentic, then I guess we can't be friends. Like, It's like, this is my authentic self. Like,
and it's funny too, because he's talked about he's talked about values, right? And it's like, if you say you shouldn't do that because this, and he's like, well, my values don't line up with you. So like, I completely disagree. It's like, if you think, my kid should be doing this thing because it's quote unquote the right thing to do, maybe I don't think that's the right thing to do. Maybe society or a bunch of people agree with you, but like, that's not how I see it.
Yeah, what I value is different from what you value.
You can get kind of hippie-ish with it because you can be like, let's pull back for a second and be like, yo, dude, what is right and wrong? And like, it's just society, bro. Society's just told us it's just all the puritanical stuff from way back when. It's just dripped into society, man. You can do whatever you want. And I think, again, a lot of it is like these puritanical Christian values that have permeated society. And I think for the vast majority, a lot of those things and intentions have been good for society, especially American society. You see a lot of countries that are not doing so hot. Maybe the moral compass of that country is very skewed. And I think that the moral compass of the United States, for the most part, people tend to be good people for the most part. I think we've seen the ugly side of a lot of that recently. And we'll get into that later. But I think that for the most part, a lot of these values, and I would say growing up in a Christian household and all that, like I'd say I definitely benefited more than I didn't. And I think that growing up in a group of people, in a community of people that value right and wrong and, you know, try to make you the best person you can be, I think that's great. I think you should always strive to be a better person. And I mean, for the amount of times that you can choose to offend people or not, I think you should probably choose to not. Like if you know that someone will take offense to something that you're saying, like, probably don't say it if you don't, especially if you don't believe it. You know, if you're just trying to rile people up.
Right.
I think that that's a part of being respectful. Like, obviously, I could go around and just start screaming the N-word, and you're like, "Oh, you're just choosing to be offended by that. Ha ha, you're the dummy." And it's like, no, that's not really how this works.
That's called being hateful.
And I can agree with that. Yeah. I think people can say, like, you're just throwing it around because you're trying to be edgy and blah blah blah. And I assure you that is not what we're trying to do. We truly are just trying to, you know, we at the end of the day, we like to have fun on this podcast. Like, we come here and we have a silly goose time. We're being silly. We're being fun. And I think that
some weeks we'll be working so hard. This is the only time we hang out is on the podcast. Yeah, you know? So it's fun. We like it.
And if you are sitting there and thinking like, you know, oh, they're just, you know, whatever, and you're still going to end up taking offense to it, we're sorry, but we're not going to really change the format of the podcast. And we can try to be more intentional with our cussing and try not to be so lazy. I can definitely say that I'll try to do that. But at the end of the day, I personally don't think swearing is offensive. If I hear someone swear, I don't think,
it doesn't even register.
The thing for me,
it doesn't even register. Like,
is I go, oh, this guy's cool.
Yeah,
you know, I go, this guy's real.
I see people around me. Like, if I'm having a conversation, especially in a group, and someone cusses, I only noticed if someone cusses if someone flinches. Mm-hmm. Like, if someone flinches, I'm like, oh, someone must have cussed, and oh, you're those kind of people,
yeah.
You know. And I'm like, stay away from you. If you can't handle cussing, then you can't handle that. No thanks.
Yeah,
and I think,
and the world is messy, bro. Like, people want to just pretend that the world does not have its own things, and they just want to go through the world with blinders on and like, nope, don't want to see that. Oh, nope, don't want to see that. Don't want to see that. I just want to like pretend that everything is hunky dory, and that's not a good way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think we could dive into a little bit deeper of the idea of we've been talking a lot about values. Question your values, guys. Like, question your values often, because you got to remember, like, more than likely you got your values from your parents and they got their values from their parents, and it kept going. And a lot of times value structures are based within religious structures, but not just religious structures, specifically like a church, like what church your grandpa grew up in and what church your mom went to, and then what church you went to, if you even went to a church. Like, so you got to really like think about like, what do you actually believe? Because inside of the church, there's a lot of quarreling on different opinions and beliefs, just like within the disability community. There's a lot of opinions and quarreling, just like in the LGBTQ plus. P.S. Happy Pride, everyone. You know, like there's a lot of quarreling, and it's like no matter what you identify with or how you identify, it's very important to define your values. And you can very simply like just Google like values worksheet. I've filled out a few values worksheets before, and basically it just what you value the most. Like, for example, I value like honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Like, those are 3 personal values that I like hold deep, right? Yeah. But I also have a lot of other values when it comes to like relationships, or when it comes to like business, or when it comes to friendships, or like whatever, you know. But you got to figure out whatever you figure out. And if you've never questioned your own values before, think about who taught me this, who said it was okay. When did they say it was okay? Like, I remember growing up thinking that men didn't cry and you were weak if you cried. So I made sure to not show emotions and to never cry. And I remember being in a therapy session and like talking to my counselor about that. And she's like, who told you that? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, who told you that? And I had to think back all the way. I was 8 years old. I had a bowl of chili and I was walking down some stairs to go to the basement to play like Xbox with my friends or something. They were upstairs watching like the Super Bowl, and you know, there's a big bowl of chili, and I tripped and I fell and I slipped, and the chili went all over the carpet, all over the floor. and I was 8, I was young, I started crying. And I remember the dad of the house came and helped me clean it up. And that's when he told me, he said, don't cry over little things. He's like, you only cry when you're actually really, really hurt or someone dies. But other than that, you don't cry. Men don't cry. And I had to think back, and I'm like, wow, I'm in my late 20s figuring out like it's okay to cry. Like you have to literally question like when was I taught cussing is bad? When was I told that like cussing was a sin? Maybe if you grew up in a religious household. When was I taught that like only bad people or immoral people or it's immoral to cuss? Like you have to question these things. Like when was it? Who was it? How was it? Because we can look at your entire belief system, because your entire belief system is a combination of nature and nurture. It's a combination of who brought you up and how they brought you up, and a combination of the environment that you grew up in. So you got to literally like ask yourself these questions frequently and often. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure we didn't actually cuss on this particular segment, is so that you guys can listen and not be offended and run away. So hopefully by the time you reach this mark, you might be going, I never thought about that. Maybe I don't think cussing is bad. Maybe I just think it's bad because, my mom told me it's bad, or like maybe I think it's bad.
Or you don't associate with people that cuss, or, you're, whatever. And I think it does go to be said, like, for example, Gary Vee, you were talking about him. He actually recently started putting stuff on LinkedIn and started beeping his cuss words, because he was like, I needed to, like, if I'm putting stuff on LinkedIn, I need to read the room and say, oh, these are all corporate-y people.
Corporate professionals,
I need to chill out on that. And I think that's kind of like what we did with our main channel, right?
Didn't he also open up like a second like kids Gary Vee channel that Jamie edits out all the cuss words? Like I think he opened up
Jamie?
Or not Jamie, I'm sorry. D-Rock. Wow.
Maybe, I don't know.
All these assistants.
But either way, so I think probably, and also like, but he also is like on TikTok and he cusses and stuff like that too. And like a lot of teenagers
is for the kids,
know
baby, yeah.
TikTok. And another thing is like, for example, when Joe Rogan interviews Bernie Sanders, for example, I don't really remember him cussing a lot. I think it's probably because he realizes like Bernie Sanders is like a political candidate. He's kind of old. He'll probably be taken aback by if I'm like dropping the F-bomb every couple seconds.
And he's also hoping the people that are listening are also there to listen for a long time. And again, that's the thing that's kind of...
You got to read the room. And the thing is right. And like, for example, the one that we did with Aaron Lee, we didn't cuss because Aaron Lee said, hey, I want to share this with my friends. I'd appreciate it if you guys don't cuss. So we didn't. And that was the thing. Like, I think a couple have slipped through.
Yeah.
But through an hour and a half, like it didn't phase anyone. But it goes back to like questioning like why it offends you and all that stuff. Aaron Lee works at a church, like, she wanted to share it with a lot of people like that. So it was like, okay, let's be respectful. If that's the one thing that's going to deter people from listening to this, let's chill out. But we're definitely not going to like stop. We're not going to change up the way we're doing things right now.
Yeah, and an interesting,
based on that,
I guess, challenge is that you talk about reading the room. Mm-hmm. In our room, in this room right here, everyone's fine with it. And this podcast is mostly aimed and geared towards people like us, right? So if you combine, me and AJ and you all together, we are a 22 to 31-year-old male who's into like technology and internet culture and like video games and fitness and music. It's like
all the music we listen to has cussing. Like it's
like this. If you're a person who doesn't look and act like us, that is listening to us, cool, glad you're here. What's up? But like this is mostly targeted at
people that look like us,
the people that look and act like us,
and also like a lot of people in to bring it back to like disability and stuff. It's like people that have gone through some real, I feel like we can start cussing again. Some real shit.
Some real heavy, dark shit. For real.
Like if you had cancer or something, like I think you can probably handle a couple cuss words because you've had to like
if you've been
think
paralyzed,
about dying.
Yeah.
If you had like a traumatic incident and you're in a wheelchair, I think you can handle a couple of cuss words. I don't think you're very fragile. And I think
dark humor is how a lot of people cope.
Totally. And I think a lot of people, especially wheelchair users and stuff, like they typically are a little bit rough around the edges. Like a lot of people that we meet are like a little bit, but that gives them character. Like they're maybe a little bit crazy or a little bit like
they're a little bit grimy.
And a lot of people that like get injured doing some extreme sports or something like that.
Some rowdy shit.
It's like you don't think that those people were, whatever. So it's just funny. It's like, yo,
if you mean to tell me that you think that there's no cussing at the motocross track, you're fucked in the head.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you think that the guy with like tattoos in a wheelchair that's all jacked isn't gonna cuss. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that guy is definitely gonna swear.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess to wrap things up, we're gonna keep fucking swearing.
But I hope by now we've given you basically 30 minutes cuss free. I hope if you're one of the people who's been giving us feedback about the cursing, that you actually had a chance to listen all the way through. You understand our points, you understand our arguments, and maybe, just maybe, we've swayed your perspective and your opinion just a little bit.
If you love Wheels to Walking, you'll love Wheels to Walking Live.
I'm not on that website often. But I know.
Knows what we're
I know
talking
what you're
about.
talking about.
Bro,
I know what you're talking
TikTok
about.
recently has been, people in the comments have been writing that all the time on girls that are like in bikinis and stuff. It's like, whoa, when did I subscribe to TikTok Premium? Like, it's so freaking funny, bro.
The other day, Jalila was on her Discover page, and she's like, why is there a 14-year-old with massive tits jiggling them in front of my face?
Literally.
And I was like, I don't know. That's the part that's driving me crazy. One, let's leave TikTok on TikTok. And why are these creepy repost pages that are like, teen energy love, and like reposting like TikTok girls that are very obviously underage.
Well, the thing is,
wearing very skimpy bikinis, shaking and jiggling things all over the place.
let's get one thing straight. I think a lot of those accounts are probably run by like 16-year-olds. So,
Man, I hope so. I hope they're not by some.
dude, think
some
about it. When you
older,
were
creepy
16, weren't you trying to see some 16-year-old titties? That's the thing. It's like, it's only creepy to us because it's like,
They're underage,
oh, like these girls are underage. It's like, for underage dudes, they're like fiending for that shit. So like, that's what's happening.
It's the
And
equivalent. It's the
weird
equivalent
because
of like
it's
all the butt pics. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't ever flinch when I see like an obvious like 20 to 25-year-old like showing off a butt. I'm like, neat. I might even double tap that one. But like for the most part,
Well, that's another thing is like, you know, another rabbit hole of like sexualizing, but it's like, you know, should a woman be proud of her body and show it off? Sure, if she wants to,
Yes.
but also at the same time, like, stop sexualizing children. But
well, what I find difficult, and I find this both at the internet, through advertising, going to the gym, is like, I think being a guy, like it's very hard to, I guess, bounce my eyes. And that's not something that I really cared about as a single person. But now that I'm in a relationship, in a committed, loving relationship, I don't try to like stare or like fantasize about other women often, to the best of my ability, because really like my heart is for my girlfriend, right? But there's just like, I want to be on Instagram to just like look at cars and like wheelchair stuff. And I don't want to look at boobs and butt. Like, if I wanted to do that, I would go to like a pornog site.
well,
you know,
a lot
like,
of times,
that's
unfortunately, it's almost kind of like the gateway drug. It's like a lot of times, like people talk about it. It's like Instagram is like the gateway drug where you're scrolling through and then all of a sudden you're like,
you get the tingles and the jingles downstairs, and you go,
and
all right.
then you go to something like that, and it's like, yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that, but I agree. I think it is weird, but also at the same time, I've heard of some couples where it's like, you know, for example, with the whole like averting your gaze or bouncing your eyes or whatever, it's kind of like, with like bodybuilding or something, you're appreciating the human form, right? Like
That's different. That's different.
I know, but like, hear me out. So like, you're appreciating the human form, you're appreciating like how that person looks, whatever, and they're on stage, they're literally like basically naked,
The
flexing
structure and the aesthetic
doing like
and
a
their
thing,
muscles and
blah blah blah, and you're appreciating the human form, and obviously you're also appreciating all the hard work and blah blah blah, but you're also appreciating good genetics for sure. You're appreciating.
I
good
will say that
genetics.
bodybuilding shows don't get me horny though.
No, they don't, and they're not.
But they're the most naked. You know, they're
Exactly.
the most naked.
But that's what I'm saying is, I think I've heard of some couples that are like so secure enough with each other that they can be like, dude, look at that girl's ass, and then the other girl's like, holy shit, that ass is insane. You know
And
what
I've
I mean?
seen the opposite too, where the girl will look to the guy and be like, yo, look at how jacked he is, dude. Be like, I bet he's got a huge dick. You know, like
I hope my girl does never sound like that. I bet he's got a huge dick.
no, you're right. I think there is security
Imagine
in
if
it.
your girlfriend said that to you.
I would look. I'd be like, yo, he probably does.
I know, but in that voice, I bet he's got a huge dick. Oh God.
Yeah, so I'm not insecure in my relationship, and I don't think Jalila is either. Like, and I don't think like there like we will regularly even be on Instagram, and she'll show me like girls, and I'll show her guys, and like we regularly like go back and forth. But just in general, this is just like a me thing. Like, I personally would like to only sexualize and fantasize about my real life person.
Yeah.
You know, versus an internet person or multiple internet people. And then
I feel that.
And I've just found.
I thought you were talking about like looking at people at the gym or something like that.
How can you not? Like, they're wearing.
Well, you said because when you said bouncing your eyes when you're on like Instagram or something, that's not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of like out in public and stuff.
Yeah.
Can you appreciate a good body without fantasizing about having sex with them? I think you can.
Absolutely.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Is
absolutely,
like,
yeah.
I think you can, the same way that you can go to a bodybuilding show and not be in the corner trying to like pop in a boner.
But if some
you can
girl
also see someone in real life and be like, damn, she's hot, but not immediately go. I mean, obviously the reptile brain goes to like procreation.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, imagine a girl is wearing like skin tight leggings, doing straight leg deadlifts. So basically she's bent all the way over, her butt and her cooch is right in your face. And you're
she's doing it right in front of your face, and like her butt is like hitting your face.
No, and you're literally there working out, and it's like
you're on a machine, and she just goes right in front of you and squats right in your face. You're doing like the like hamstring one where you're bent over, and she just starts putting her butt in your face. Anyways.
So you look like, I have the option to look and then fantasize, or I have the option to look and go, damn, and I'm looking the other way.
Yeah,
you know, like and that's the one of the things where it's like, I would prefer to be like, ooh, that's nice, but I'm looking the other way because I would prefer to keep my brain for my girlfriend. Versus like, I don't think it's wrong. Again, I did this when I was single, but like just to look and be like, damn, and then you start fantasizing and imagining all the things that you would do to her sexually, and it's like, I personally prefer to try to keep that energy.
I think that's where people get into the whole like objectifying, because like the thing you just said was the things I would do to her rather than the things I would do with her. You know what I mean? Like, you're not fantasizing about like,
you got me.
Oh, I want to like cuddle with this girl and like get to know her, and then also this, but it's like you're just immediately like, I want to stick it in. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things I would do to her. And I think that's where you got to kind of like figure that out.
And I was trying to explain that to Jalila. I was like, it can be difficult being a guy because there's just sexuality everywhere.
Poor man. I'm just kidding.
No, but you're right. And she goes, what
did
do you
get addicted to thinking about... No, you know that,
yeah,
that meme
like,
of like, did you get addicted to sexually fantasizing about every girl you see?
Yeah. But she was like asking me, she's like, what do you mean it's hard? She's like, do you mean it's hard to stay faithful? Do you mean it's hard not to cheat? Do you mean it's hard to not to yada yada? And I was like, no, it's not like that. Like, I'm not gonna like go run off with these girls.
It's just hard to not let your monkey mind wander.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, I don't know how accurate the thing is, but they're like, men think about sex every 8 seconds or like something like that. Like, I don't know. I've never counted.
Some, for sure.
But it's like, I'm a male. I have hormones, and I've got a monkey brain, a reptile brain, and it's like, I'm trying to eat, and I'm trying to procreate, and I'm trying to like have a safe place to sleep. Like, that's...
Oh, I want to eat, procreate, and have a good place to sleep.
Ooga booga. I mean, literally, it's caveman.
Well,
so, but that being said, it's like, if I'm on Instagram and some 14-year-old girl has uploaded her TikTok of her in a very small bikini shaking her butt, I'm like, oh, keep scrolling. And then I'm like, and then I get like mad. I'm like, oh, damn it, I don't want to see that, you know?
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. And then I think about like, even in advertising or even at the gym, it's like some of these girls go to the gym, full done hair, full done makeup, coordinated outfits. They give themselves wedgies. Like, you see, they will intentionally give themselves wedgies so you can see like everything, all the shape and the jiggle and everything. And then they'll like, I don't know if it's, maybe I'm conspiracy theorying over here, but it's like they'll like intentionally be close to guys so that guys will be close to them.
Dude,
and
I mean,
like,
think about it.
It's like the mating rituals near the pond in Africa.
No,
you know?
it really is. There's a
animalistic
skit about that.
Yeah, I've
You've
seen
definitely seen it, but
it's animalistic. I think
I do have to say one thing that I saw the other day at the gym that I immediately was like, that is the most sexual thing I've ever seen at the gym. Okay,
was it a male or a female wearing it?
It was a female.
Okay.
She was doing, okay, so there's a lot of things you can that girls do in the gym that are very, like, for example, the like pelvic thrusting one where you're like lifting up the weights and you're literally just
like humping the
air. Yeah. That one, yeah, very sexual. Here's the most sexual thing I saw. So those bands that you can put around your legs, and it's like you have to like step into
for
them.
like adduction and abduction.
Yeah, so you step into these big rubber bands. They're a circle, and you put them around your legs. So this girl was like in between doing that and something else. And when you're in between doing sets, you would probably like they're gonna be around your like thighs.
So you like pull them up or push them down.
Yeah, she would like have it around her waist. When she took it off, she went to like take them off, and like the exact motion she was doing
was taking your pants off.
It was the exact motion of taking a thong off, because it's like this thin little rubber band, and she's like doing the little shimmy in the motion. I'm like, and she was also wearing like skin colored leggings when I saw it, and it was like a pink band. I'm like, this girl's taking off a pink thong over here. What is happening?
Yeah, I bet your jaw was on the floor.
I literally was just like, this needs to stop.
I wonder. I've actually asked Jalila about this, and she says that it's like it's not a fact, but I think it might be. It's like the opposite, like where girls will like see guys and they're like, oh, he's in a sweaty like stringer, or like, he's got a nice beard, or he's got like veiny arms, or like or be like, oh, look at his dick print, like, oh, he's wearing those gray sweatpants, like check out that dick print. Like I wonder if girls are like that, but I don't think they are, because I don't think their brains are as,
I don't know.
Unless they're a bodybuilder chick on male hormones, then yes.
It depends, dude, because there's a lot of horny girls out there for sure.
I'm not saying there isn't, but I wonder if they like see a guy like
and they're like, oh, he's doing that intentionally, and we're not. Yeah. I think that's totally true, because I think that there's inherently things that girls do unintentionally that are super sexy to us, but to them they're like, what? I'm just like doing this.
I'm just taking off a stretchy band.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get out of this topic, because I feel like we've already said some shit that's gonna get us canceled.
No, but let's keep going a little bit. So
we had the blooper thing,
but we're already talking about gym stuff, so we might as well just knock it out.
Oh, true. Sorry.
So we're already talking about gym stuff. Okay, so we're getting into working out again. Like the gym's here.
What do you mean we? I've been working out. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me rephrase that. Since I got hit by the car in December, I was out of working out for about 3 months. And then I finally was able to get back in the gym. The first week I was able to get to the gym, all 5 days, was that Friday was the 13th, and the 13th is when they shut everything down. So
it was the 17th, I believe.
Either way. So
you just stopped going because you were afraid.
Sure. So I did do the coronavirus research video, and it scared me. So yeah, I agree. I scared myself with way too much research.
You stopped going before they closed, but yeah.
I was too. Anyway, so they so I stopped going, and then I basically didn't do many home workouts for another like 3 months, and also
because home workouts suck.
And even before Rona, and even before I got hit by the car, I was so bored in the gym. I would go in there and just barely go through the motions. I was always playing on my phone. My workouts lasted way too long. I wasn't getting sweaty enough. They just kind of sucked. So I'm kind of on this like resurgence right now, where like I haven't started like tracking my like macros, because honestly I really don't want to do that right now. That's like if I'm trying to get shredded or something, but I'm not. But what I'm doing is,
what is your goal?
So I'm learning how to work out non-bodybuilder style, and I'm learning how to work out in such a way that I don't have time to grab my phone at all. So I'm doing 30 to 45 minute, really intense, like to the point where like I'm sweating and like falling out of my chair because I'm gonna die. Like I'm pushing myself really hard, and I'm doing a lot of stuff with like weighted sandbags and like weighted balls. And I'm doing a lot of throws, a lot of catches, a lot of turf pushing, where like when I'm on the turf and I push my wheelchair, it's like heavy resistance. So, and I'm doing it like CrossFit style. Like I'm setting up a circuit and I'm doing as many reps as I can in like a 30 to 60 second period. And then I'm resting, and then I'm changing workout. So I'll like,
so it's kind of like a hit circuit.
Yeah. So I like push back and forth, and then I'll take a ball and I'll slam it on the ground a bunch of times, and then I'll pick up a sandbag and do like some movements and some motions, and then I'll take the ball again and I'll like throw it up against a trampoline so it hits a different part, and then I'll do like some like ab stuff or like some core stuff, and then I'll jump and I'll start pushing back and forth again, and I just try to do as many like laps and as much as possible. And that's been dope, because I'll wake up completely fasted. I'll wake up, I'll put on my gym clothes, I'll drink an energy drink or a pre-workout.
Bang?
Yeah, or Rain, Bang or Rain, whichever one. Whichever one they have at Kroger.
Dude, I need one today, I think.
Well, I've got extras. You can have one. And then so I'm like, all right, let me just go in there and get super intense. Like, and it's to the point where like I'm sweating so profusely that I thought I peed my pants. Like I'm so sore everywhere, and I don't know if you get it's very hard for me to get the same sensation as a runner's high. Like it is almost impossible. Like in the past 10 years,
mine's from yoga.
In the past 10 years, I've only gotten one real intense runner's high, and to me, a runner's high is when you in your brain you feel like whoa, but like you feel it in your chest and in your heart, where your heart is like. And then like there's just like this hollow feeling in your chest where you're like, and you're just fucking sweating everywhere. And
it doesn't sound pleasant.
Oh, it's not. It sucks. But you know you're burning like 600, 700, 800 calories, and you're working out your entire body. And
600, 700, 800 calories for the whole run, or
for the whole the whole thing, because you have at a very high elevated heart rate.
Yeah.
For 30 to 45 minutes will definitely do that to you.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just trying to like. Really go intense, but the challenge is like, dude, my mobility is jacked up. Like I used to do.
Yeah, most people do intensity by like running and stuff.
Yeah, so like I've got to find very alternative ways, and then I'm also doing like my own version of like my PT in the gym.
Can you do rowing?
I've tried a bunch of times, and it just doesn't work for me.
Because you can't do the legs.
I can't do the leg part, and then like my butt is so crooked that like even if I just sit still and do the rowing part, I tilt left and right, and since my legs, it's.
What have you ever tried it sitting in your wheelchair?
You can't go full back because the way the back is. Trust me, I've tried like 35 different angles. The best cardio I can get is just battle ropes. It's just battle roping. But recently all the ropes have been vanishing.
But you know, it's funny. Like I said before, the sauna is literally cardio. Like I went to the sauna yesterday, sat in there for like 40 minutes, and at the end I was so exhausted I like couldn't even do anything the rest of the day.
But that's just so, to me, the sauna is so boring.
Yeah, that's why you listen to a podcast.
But I got things to do, man. Like
You're going and doing battle ropes.
Yeah,
that's boring as hell.
That's something. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. You're right about the sauna. Sauna's really good for you. Sauna's dope. But I'm too like fidgety and antsy of a person.
I know.
Like I want to get in there, like get my stuff done.
I'm just saying for
leave.
people that are listening, like if they're like, I can't find anything to do for cardio, like you can literally do the sauna. And it's, dude, yesterday, so the Lifetime sauna just opened up, and it has been off the charts hot. It's like 180 degrees. Ooh. And even if you leave the door open for a second, it's pretty pinned. And like, because I was trying to get back into it, and I was like, I wanted to hit it a lot because I was like, I want to get my tolerance back up or whatever. So when I'm going, I'll sit in there for like 40 minutes because normally like 15 minutes is like plenty, but like 20 is like a really good one. So I was doing two sets of 20 where I did like a 20-minute session, and then I went and took a cold shower, and then went back in and got another 20-minute. And bro, on the second 20-minute, like 10 minutes in, I thought I was like dying. Like literally, I was like.
So you did,
and I was pouring fucking cold water on my head.
Like a reverse Wim Hof. You went hot and then cooled down and then got hot again.
Well, that's what they do in Finland. Like the Finnish sauna is like, that's what you do. You take a cold plunge in between. Like in like Hungary and stuff. Like when you go to like the hot baths and stuff like that. I'm
hungry, so thank you.
Yeah, when you go to Hungary, like you stay in the hot as long as you can. Then you do a cold plunge and then you get back in because basically it's like a reset. Because like then your external is like completely cold now.
And people forget your skin is such a huge organ.
Yeah.
I wonder what that does for skin health. I wonder I wonder how good that is for us wheelchair users.
Bro, it's so
need
good.
Good skin integrity.
Sweating, I think that's what I attribute to having really good skin. Like
it is true. You rarely have blemishes on your face.
I pretty much never do, and I can always point back to when I do is either I like didn't wash my face
or
and
like traveling or like sleeping on the floor or something.
Or I ate some bullshit. I ate like a bunch of like cheese or like some like a pizza or something, and or like I didn't sweat. Like that's like one of the biggest things because like sweating, I sweat a lot, but I like make myself sweat.
What do you think about the whole like sweat out the toxins? Like,
your body's always detoxing.
Is that nonsense?
I don't think it's 100% nonsense, but I think people are like, there's toxins, blah blah blah. I think a lot of people have this like mindset that their body's always like producing like bad things, and you always need to be like clarifying all the like bad stuff out. And it's like, when do you reach a point that you're like just good? You know, like I think it's kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow's like Goop thing. It's like this journey of like being the most healthy person you can be, and it's kind of toxic if you think about it, because you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're never gonna ever be like 100% good, and then your whole life just revolves around like health and wellness, which is fine, but like you gotta have a life.
The way I think about it is like, I have a lot of faith in my liver and my kidneys, because guess what didn't exist hundreds of years ago? Cleanses and detoxings and saunas, and you know what I mean? Like all these things that like,
guess what else existed? People dying at
early,
like 30 because of like really simple diseases.
Don't disagree with you there. But I guess what I'm saying is like, I have a lot of faith in my kidney and my livers, and kidneys and liver. I've never done like a cleanse or like a detox or like a juice thing or like a kombucha thing or like a celery thing, like, or like a fasting thing. Like I've literally never done any of those things ever. I've never even done like a flush out my.
You went vegan for a while.
Yeah, I mean that sure, but I was allergic to a lot of the foods and didn't know it, and I was eating lots of fat. I would argue that. So this is what the vegan thing did for me. So this was a hack. I desperately wanted to have a discipline that forced me to make my own food, because I was eating out, dude. I remember one month I spent $2,000 eating out, because I'd eat out 3-4 times a day.
Holy shit.
And it was all terrible food for me. And I remember I was like in a very bad body type, but at least I was eating, because during my addiction times, like I wasn't eating at all. So I was just like, I was just shoving myself full of food. And then I was like, okay, I need to learn how to cook. What can I do to force me to learn how to cook? Because with my, and I was like, and something that could be good with my allergies. And at the time, I didn't know I was gluten intolerant. I just thought I was just dairy. And so I'd also been reading like some personal development books, and some people that I'd really looked up to that were like, yeah, vegan's good. It helps you concentrate. It's better for repair and fitness and yada, yada, yada. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So for like 6 months, I did the full vegan thing. But a vegan diet is extremely carby and extremely fatty. And if you are not strategic with it.
It doesn't have to be.
That's what I'm saying. If you're not strategic with it, which I wasn't really strategic, I was just teaching myself how to cook basically. And then what happened is for about 6 months, all of my eating was at home. All of it. I made my smoothies, and I made my meals, and I did my meal prep and my recipes, and everything was all just at home. And it was great. And it was lots of like nuts and lots of oils and lots of like noodle, like it was just, and breads, and it was just super like fatty and super carby.
Which is like the opposite of what like a lot of bodybuilder style eating would be, like hella protein and like very little carb, or some carb.
It was low to mid protein and extremely high fat and extremely high carb. So like I was getting huge, but I was getting huge. You know what I mean? Like I had a gut on me. Like there's a picture that I have of me, like I'm 200 plus pounds, but I have like the V. You know, like I'm like I got a gut, but with a V. It was a very weird time. And I remember I went to Hawaii, and I was there, and I went to a luau, and they had like fresh fish and like fresh pork. And I was like, all right, I'm out. And then I started like eating meats again. And then that's when I decided to like integrate my meats back into all my vegan recipes. And then that's also when I found out that I was allergic to onions. And that's also when I found out that I was allergic to wheat. And I was like, dude, it's impossible. Not impossible, but it's very, very, very difficult to be a gluten-free vegan. And I was like, whew, this is, damn.
Gluten-free, raw, vegan, blah, blah, blah.
Whatevs.
Gluten-free, dairy-free, raw, vegan.
But I wouldn't ever attribute it, be like, I'm trying to cleanse my body and I'm trying to detoxify. Like, I would argue that I might have been eating calorically. Nutritionally, I was eating really, really good, like nutrient-wise, but calorically, I was not.
You weren't eating enough?
I wasn't eating, I was eating too much, but I wasn't eating.
Really?
So it's like, for example,
you're eating a lot of carbs.
I had this one recipe that was rice noodles, bell peppers, tofu, a bunch of scoops of peanut butter, and a bunch of scoops of coconut oil. So it's like I had rice and veggies and nuts and fats and beans, and it's like the only protein source was really the tofu. The tofu.
Yeah, and peanut butter.
And peanut butter, but everything else was super fatty and super carby, and I would eat that meal 2-3 times a day. Like it was just I could make a big.
It wasn't good.
I could make a big batch and then put it in the fridge and then just microwave and like.
Yeah.
And then what I did eventually was just add shrimp into it later.
Yeah.
You know?
But the whole like detox thing, yeah, I've never done like a cleanse or something like that. But like, I think there's probably something to doing something like that. You know, I think everything's good in moderation, including moderation. Like
that's one of my favorite quotes.
You should always
you have.
do stuff to switch things up, you know, like, because I think, for example, a lot of people go vegan and they experience a lot of health benefits, but then over time they'll develop a kidney stone or something like that. Or they'll, you know, like there's a lot of reasons why doing certain things right off the bat will give you benefits, because I think switching things up is always beneficial. As long as you're not doing it like a negative way.
I think every diet has its pluses and its negatives.
If you're just eating like a standard American diet and then all of a sudden you go vegan and you're eating tons of greens and tons of vegetables and all this stuff,
that's probably the biggest benefit.
You're going to experience a huge benefit. But the thing wasn't that you removed meat. The thing was that you added vegetables. So the thing is like that whole argument kind of falls apart a lot. But anyways.
Well, it's kind of like there's Whole30, there's keto, there's paleo, there's vegan, and there's everything else in between. Carnivore. There's so, like, that's the thing about diets is like a lot of them have a lot of good benefits and a lot of them have a lot of
Atkins.
And a lot of them have a lot of negative stuff. And it's like, but you got to figure out what's sustainable, because this is the rule when it comes to dieting. Find something that you can comply with. That's it. It doesn't have to be special. It doesn't have to be magical. It doesn't have to be the most trendy. Just one that you can comply with. That's it. And you can make little rules like no packaged foods, no prepared foods, no fast food, no restaurants, or maybe fast foods and restaurants once or twice a week, or like no refined sugar.
I think you got to give yourself a day to fuck off.
It's like no refined sugar except for on Saturdays, maybe. Like you can figure out
cutting out sugar right off the bat is hard.
That's a progressive thing, because sugar's like Coke to your brain.
Dude, I'm addicted to sugar for sure. My weakness right now is cereal for sure. I eat way too much cereal.
I have food phases where I'm like all about.
Richard comes over and eats all my cereal. Just kidding.
No, I only keep cereal. The only time I eat cereal is at your house, because I can't keep it around here because
you'll just eat it.
Because I just eat it, and like since I got that wheelie boy problems, I'll be pooping rocks, man. Like
yeah, I never realized that that cereal makes you poop like that until you mentioned it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Cereal does make you poop a lot.
But rocks, it's a pain.
Yeah. I want to show this blooper video.
Yeah, dude. So let's go ahead and transition over into this. So this is from the last video. So anytime that there's a video where I'm like sitting in one place or talking a lot, and especially if it's a video that has no script, the bloopers are off the chain, because we'll film for 3-4 hours sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
And then what comes out is like a 15-minute video. So think about all the takes of all the time.
Yeah. Let's play this and let it speak for itself.
For everyone who has talked about my Richard-isms, enjoy. Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead. So we'll go ahead. We'll just go ahead. So we're going to go ahead. And then we'll go ahead. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead. So we're going to go ahead. Then we'll go ahead. So we're going to go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and so I'm going to go ahead and I will go ahead. Go ahead and let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. I'll go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. You can go ahead and I'm going to go ahead. There I go again saying I'm going to go ahead. I'll go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and make a compilation of all the times you say, I'm going to go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead.
It's surprising how long it is.
I'm going to go ahead.
None of those are repeats.
Does it go deep in your butt? This particular gunk. Get gunked up nice and gunky and gunk, junk, and gunk. Oh, nice girlfriend hair. Watch me do this. It's going to be gross. Oh.
That had grease on it. He ate one of her hairs. Now there's literally grease on your lip.
The chin hair. All right, so we'll get this all liberal and we'll get it all looped up. And
the hair is hanging off of your lip, by the way. There it is. There's a greasy hair.
Except for Britain. I'm British. Also, people from Britain, don't kill me. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Black Lives Matter.
This is what happens when Richard doesn't script a video and just pulls it off the top of his head, and then Andrew fixes it all in editing, so I don't sound
as dumb as I really am in real life.
Facts. That last sentence is like the ultimate facts,
Dude,
dude.
that's so funny.
Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, yo, you guys do not understand how much of a secret weapon Andrew is for me. I'm like, if I had, you do not understand. I'm like, he spends twice as long fixing it than I actually did doing it.
Dude, the best is the gunk part. I was dying.
Gunk,
How many times
gunk.
you said gunk? You're like,
And then-
yeah, it's nice
and
and
then-
gunky.
And then I threw up a random junk in there.
Yeah, I thought that was good. She's like, yeah, there's so much gunk and junk.
I would encourage anyone to do an editing little montage of that.
Yeah, dude, it was so freaking funny.
Ooh, you know, it'd be fun, and this might be a Fred challenge. Are you up for the challenge? Go back. This would be a lot of work, so maybe I'm not challenging. So anyone, if you have got the time, this will be hysterical. Go back through like all of my videos and find the times where like I do and say dumb and silly stuff, and then like compile it into one big edit and make
Probably most of those got cut out of the videos, but yeah, like all the funniest parts, I've just got them hiding.
Yeah, would you guys like to see a super edit of these? And maybe maybe we put it on Patreon, or maybe we do it as a main channel upload. I like the idea of Patreon because
Yeah,
you guys
I'll do a
support
blooper video at some point.
Ooh, you know what I could do? I could make a whole separate tier, a single time donation for the blooper
blooper tier?
Blooper tier, a single. But it's like it's not.
Yeah, whatever.
It's not a continual.
Yeah, whatever.
thing.
I think we can just put
The
it on
audience
Patreon.
can maybe make one and get a Wheels to Walk and Golden Star.
Well, they don't have all the bloopers, is what I'm saying. Like the bloopers don't make it into the video.
No.
Well, what Richard was talking about.
No, I'm saying you could make a compilation, and then
I know I'm gonna do it.
and we release it, but the way we release it is on Patreon, but we incentivize people because we make a new tier that no one has access to.
Yeah.
So we can incentivize people, be like, hey, if you want to pay $7 instead of $5, or if you want to pay
Yeah, or we could just reward the people that have been supporting us for the longest time on Patreon and just give them a free video.
I mean, obviously that is a way to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
The only reason I thought about it is because
It's like,
I get emails
Hey
from
guys that pay us for videos you can get for free anyways, we're gonna make you pay more to get this other secret video. I'd rather just give it to them.
I don't know. Patreon sends me messages like giving me like tips about like how to get your patrons to up their patronage from one tier to a next tier. It's like make exclusive content in a separate tier.
Yeah. So that means, yeah. Anyways,
Maybe we could put it
We're gonna
inside
make more
we could put
content.
it in the producer's credit tier and be like, hey, if you guys want to see this, jump on the producer's credit tier.
True that. I'm out of water. Yeah, but that's pretty great. We'll do some more blooper stuff in the future for sure. But
I'm glad we got the amount of time that we have to talk about this next topic, because every time we leave the heavy stuff for the end, we always only give us a few minutes and then like have to rush. So let's not rush this one.
yeah,
This is a topic that I will say I only learned about pretty much last night, and I haven't done a lot of research on. So I'm going to be asking Andrew a lot of the questions, and I'm going to be probably either as formed or less informed as you guys are. So if I'm asking,
I'm either gonna be less informed, as informed, or more informed. So you decide.
that's correct. Either one of the three options.
So basically, I'll kind of recap the situation and then we can talk about it. So basically, last week on, I think it was Thursday night.
Was it Thursday or Friday?
Friday night, probably, actually, because I think Saturday was when everything went down. Yeah, so Friday night, Rayshar Brooks was found sleeping in a Wendy's drive-thru in Atlanta. And he's actually not from here. He was here on visiting his sister, I think, and he had a rental car, so it wasn't even his car. And basically, the police were called because he was asleep in the drive-thru. The drive-thru was open. Like there was people trying to use the drive-thru, and he was asleep in the drive-thru. And when police found him, there's like 8 different camera angles of this, and I've seen all of them. Like there's
Everything from like body cams to security cams to like people filming it, etc.
Yes. So basically, what happens in the beginning is the guy's like, hey, bro, what's going on? And he's like, yo, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, I need you to move your car. And then he walks away back to his police car. And he comes back and the guy fell asleep again. And he's like, yo, dude, like, you need to move your car, like, now. And he's like, what? And basically, he was drunk. The guy was drunk. He was behind the wheel. He was drunk. He was in a drive-thru. He was drunk. 100%. That's illegal. You should never drive drunk. 100%. Like, he was doing something illegal. Probably should have gotten arrested. Should have gotten a DUI, blah, blah, They made him move his car, and then they called a DUI certified officer, which I didn't know was a thing, to come on the scene.
That's why whenever you see multiple cop cars, especially at night, it's usually a suspicion of a DUI because they always bring in like.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten a DUI thing on the side of the road, and it was just one guy. So I don't know. But either way, I didn't know that was a thing, that there was like DUI specialized people. So they called in this guy that was a DUI specialist. Because, I mean, all you have to do, typically it's like blow the breathalyzer and like do the little test.
There's a lot of field tests before they blow. The blow is the final one.
I know. I had to do it. It sucked.
Yeah.
I was on the side of 400 and then at 3 a.m. But anyways, so the guy comes out and basically he admits to having had a couple of drinks. He's like, I had some margaritas, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then as the situation escalates, eventually, and the guy, to his credit, Rayshard, was being very polite, very cooperative for the most part, was not being rude. He was just like, yo, at one point he even said, can I walk to my sister's house? Like, am I being detained? Can I just like walk to my sister's house? She lives right down the street. I don't want to drive. I don't want to do anything. Like, I know I've had a couple of drinks, but like blah, blah, blah. And still at this point, he had still broken the law. He had still gotten behind the wheel of a car, and he was drunk. Like, there's no excusing that. He was breaking the law. Like, driving drunk is a serious offense, and it can kill people. Like, I'm not trying to minimize that in the least bit. But basically, at one point, police said, "Okay, you're under arrest," after he blew the breathalyzer. And when they were putting his arms behind his back, he made a break for it. He tried to run, and I think this goes, I need to clarify, the man was a black man and the officers were white guys. And
I heard, and again, when I say I heard, this is just like whatever. He reached for
so
the
I'll
taser.
get to that.
Okay.
I'll get to that. So it wasn't like the guy had his taser out right when he was arresting him. The reason why the guy pulls his taser out is because he ran. So when he ran, they tackled him to the ground, and he was still like resisting and freaking out. So the guy pulls out his taser, and he's like, "I'm gonna tase you. I'm gonna tase you." And there's video of all of this. He's gonna tase you. The Rayshard basically got the taser away from the cop, so he stole the taser from the guy, and eventually gets both of them off them and starts running and running. And as he's running, he turns around backwards and fires the taser at the officers. And at which point he kind of turns back around, keeps running, and one of the officers shoots him multiple times in the back, and he falls to the ground. Now, the goal of the police, right, is to protect and serve, right? Like, that should be the goal of the police, right? To protect and serve. So this guy, obviously he's breaking the law, but also the job of the police is not to be judge, jury, and executioner. The job of the police is to detain and to have justice be served, right?
De-escalate, detain.
Now, this guy obviously ran from police, right? He fought.
We also stole a weapon and discharged a weapon, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And I agree.
Or what's classified as a weapon. A taser is a weapon, so
in certain situations, it's been described as a deadly weapon. In some situations, it's been described as a non-deadly weapon. So it's weird because the police will say it's a non-deadly weapon when it's more convenient to say it's a non-deadly weapon, but when it's used on them, they can say it's a deadly weapon. It's kind of silly. But anyways, basically, I agree with a lot of people saying like, yeah, he shouldn't have done that, but
there's a whole lot of bad decisions on his behalf. Driving drunk, resisting, stealing a weapon, then shooting the weapon or discharging the weapon or discharging the taser at officers. That's like 4 dumb things in a row.
100%.
Like, come on.
But here's the other thing that I'll actually bring this up a little bit later. But basically, the first thing that the cops do, they do not go check on the man. After shooting someone, you should go check on them, and then what the protocol should be is if the guy's not breathing, you give CPR, you detain him, you give CPR, and then you wait for the medical professionals to come so they can go to the hospital. Yeah. The first things they do is put on pairs of gloves and go collect all the shells. They did not go check on the man for more than 2 minutes. They didn't go check and see if he was okay. They didn't check to see if he was breathing. The first thing they did was go and collect all their shells so that there couldn't be evidence of where the shells were, how far away they were shooting, all that kind of stuff, how many shots were fired. They went and collected their shells.
So the only
with gloves on.
evidence is left is the
and as soon as they had gotten
bullets
and
in the
collected
body.
their shells,
Yeah.
they went and checked on him.
I feel like shell collecting is probably something that is at least within that precinct, or maybe in all institutions. Maybe that's like protocol. It's like, yo, if you don't want to get busted, like if you shoot someone,
That would not be protocol. Then that would be.
I
Just what they do.
don't mean protocol. That's the wrong word. I meant that's like an unspoken rule. Like all the cops are like, yo, if you shoot someone, get your shells before anyone else shows up. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like grab them, put them away. Like
It's
because,
shady. It's shady is what it
it's
is.
like-
Because
'cause
when you
like-
shoot someone, you should go because the goal of the police should not be to kill this guy, but their actions afterwards have the unspoken message that they didn't really care whether this guy died or not.
Well, was it? What's
Right.
is the argument in defense? Is anyone arguing that the cops were trying to defend themselves?
Of course.
Because
They're saying that this guy stole their weapon and fired at him. They're like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And I tend to agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it did not seem like that they cared whether he died or not. And the thing about it is, in defense of Rayshard, there are countless people that have died in police custody. Whether you comply or you don't comply, there's been a lot of instances of black people dying in police custody.
Like
that means after they've gotten arrested,
like in the car,
after there's handcuffs on them,
in the jail.
There's multiple people. So this guy is, I think in his mind, he's got kids, he's got a wife. He's thinking this is life or death type of situation. He sees what's going on in the news right now. He sees all these things. I'm not trying to justify his actions. I'm just trying to explain maybe what was going on through his head.
Like, oh shit, I can't be in custody right now. Like, I could die. Like,
exactly.
so it's like,
And
I don't know,
and
dude.
the hardest part is
Drunk and dumb.
I agree that the police officers, were defending themselves, all blah blah blah. But the thing is
Well,
the police officer,
shooting someone in the back,
the
though.
police officer that shot him still had his taser. The police officer that shot him was not the one that got his taser stolen. It was the other guy. So this guy didn't get his taser stolen, and he still chose to pull out his weapon and fire multiple times into his back, killing him. Now,
if that was a civilian that was like in a home invasion, and the home invader was running away from them, and you shoot
them in the back,
and you shoot him in the back, that's a
can be
murder.
tried
That's
for
a murder
murder.
charge for you. I've actually heard some
which is kind of messed up.
I've heard some gun rights activists saying that like if you ever shoot an intruder in the back who's outside of your house, drag them back into your house and shoot him in the front inside of your house.
Yep.
So that when the police come, you're like, oh, he's inside of my house and I shot him in the front.
Yep.
Like that's crazy to think about because it's like, damn, like
it is crazy to think about. And I agree with the whole thing of like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. There is a lot of things about that situation that went wrong on Rayshard's end of the deal. But the bottom line is resisting arrest and running away from cops and getting a DUI is still not punishable by death. And people like I've thought about a couple of situations where I've probably driven a little bit too tipsy. I've probably had situations where if there was an incident, I don't know if I would have tried to make a break for it and think, maybe I can get away. This is a rental car. They don't have my name yet, blah, blah, blah. Like,
let me just dip out.
yeah, let me dip out. Let me try to get away at least until I'm sober enough.
How old was he?
Something.
Do you know how old he was?
I think he was like in his 20s. Like he has kids, but they were young and he was married and he was pretty young.
guy in their 20s running away is not.
He's pretty young. And the thing is
uncommon,
there's
I don't
so
think.
many videos, I've seen it, where there's literally white guys running around, sometimes with tasers, sometimes with weapons, and the police have restraint and they don't shoot him.
Well,
and this guy, like there's
How
this
about school
famous video.
shooters? How about school shooters? Let's talk about school shooters for a
Dylan
second.
Roof. Like
He was taken to fucking Burger King.
they took him to Burger King
murdered
after he was in
9
custody.
people in cold blood. He went inside of a church, prayed with these people, then shot 9 of them in cold blood. They detained him with no incident and then took him through a Burger King drive-thru because they felt bad for him.
Yeah, and the thing is
Oh,
there's a video of this dude that's running around naked after he killed people. Obviously, he was going through some sort of like manic episode, whatever. But after he killed people, and police are just chasing him around like it's a game of tag.
Like,
and this guy killed people. He's running around naked, and I think I could be wrong about this one instance, but he might have had something on him. He might have had a weapon. Either way, but the thing is it's funny because we have videos of police showing restraint in these types of situations, but then we see situations like Rayshar Brooks where we can chalk it up to, well, shouldn't have done that, blah blah blah. But the bottom line is that these cops just had blatant disregard for this guy's life, and that's what people are angry about. I think that's where the real anger comes from, is that cops are allowed to be killers when they want to, because they can show restraint when they don't necessarily have. Like they could, like the example that I'm talking about, the white guy running around, they could shoot that guy and it would probably be justified and no one would really bat an eye, but they don't, because they still have regard for this life, because I feel bad for this guy, whatever. And I'm not saying it's 100% racist, and I'm not saying it's 100% racially motivated. I don't think that guy went on the job thinking, I'm going to kill a black guy tonight. But the thing about it is that the actions that he had after he shot him and all this stuff, and just the way that if you watch the video, the way that he's questioning him, trying to catch him, trying to get him to say something that he shouldn't say.
I mean, that's police interrogation. That's just how they do it, though.
I know, but that's
why you always shut up and just never say anything. Like,
I know, but
just go, lawyer. And they're like, well, where were you going tonight? Lawyer. Well, we're going to have to get you in the back of the car.
But see, that's not what police should be. The job of police to protect and serve should not be to interrogate.
And try to trick and manipulate and catch charges.
Exactly. Like, you shouldn't have to have a lawyer to talk to a police officer. What should happen in those types of situations, like, because as a society, if we want to get better, like, a jail should be a rehabilitation type situation, right? Because eventually,
it's a for-profit system. Let's not forget that, guys.
Unless it's a life sentence, that person is coming out of jail, right?
You know what's insane? Do you know that governments and private jails have contracts that the governments have to guarantee
a certain
number of prisoners each year? And you want to hear something even more messed up? There are companies here in America that use prison labor, aka slave labor, in order to, the Department of Motor Vehicles, our license plates, guess who they're made by? Prisoners.
Literally prisoners.
Prisoners.
And what are prisoners? They're people that have gotten detained by the system, that are in prison, that are being paid next to nothing.
Like 30 cents an hour, but they charge them $2 a minute to make a phone call. I gotta play my
Have you watched 13th yet?
No, I need to bad.
It's all about it. You should watch it.
I have to, for just a brief moment, put myself in the shoes of that officer, because I think any sane person would still have the reaction of, that motherfucker. You know, like, he just tried to he just stole a taser from my partner. He's on the loose. He tried to shoot at us. Like, fuck him. Like, black, white doesn't matter. Like, I feel like any normal person.
That's letting your ego get caught up in the job. And then, but I would argue, like, you shouldn't be a police officer.
I agree. And
I shouldn't either.
And that's the whole point, is what I'm trying to say, is like, we were talking about this for the podcast. There's usually like three kind of police officers. There's the kind that wants to help the community and do great and be a better person and, like, you know, be a quote unquote good cop. And then there's the people that are out of the military, that have been military trained for 5-10 years, and they want a job, so they take a job in law enforcement. And then there's the people that are either high school bullies or high school dropouts that go to a 3-month-long academy and go through their 3-month-long training in order to be a cop. All three of those people have the exact same job. So it's like, what we're seeing is the people that have something to prove, the people that got a bone to pick, the people that need to flex their power because they never had any. Those are the ones I think that we see doing all these horrible things.
And to be fair, that, like you said, it's like that guy was breaking the law. But again, it's like the point of police is not to be judge, jury, and executioner. The job of the police in that situation would be to detain that man, catch that man. And that's what people are like saying, you know, well, that's blah, blah, blah. Like, cops need to be treated with respect too, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I know that there's police brutality against black people, but police also get a lot of flack, and police also get attacked, and police also get shot on the job. But the thing is you chose to be a cop. No one forced you to be a cop. You chose that career path. You knew what the implications were. You didn't choose to be black. You didn't choose to be discriminated against by simply the color of your skin. That's not a sound argument. It's just simply not. You sign up to be a cop knowing the risks. And that's why I think that this whole argument of like defunding the police makes a lot of sense, because in a better society, I think what should have happened when there's a call from a Wendy's saying that there's a man asleep in our drive-thru, there should be a person that comes down, maybe a social worker, someone who's probably unarmed, who comes down and says, "Hey, dude, what's going on?"
Someone,
blah, blah,
maybe
blah, blah.
a drug and alcohol
here's the
counselor
thing.
or something.
Here's the thing that people should say, well, that man should go to jail. He was driving drunk. At the end of the day, what he was doing became, thankfully, a victimless crime. There were no victims yet. He hadn't hit anyone yet. And I think that a lot of circumstances where there are victimless crimes, those people should not be in jail. There was no and I understand,
that's kind of the whole argument of drug dealers, right? Like
100%,
the fact that there's so many states that are making so much money.
Well, you can say their victims are people who get addicted to drugs, but the thing
I'm
is,
talking about like weed dealers, honestly.
yeah. Well, the dealers I can kind of get behind, but when you're talking about regular people with possession,
or even just users,
that's
weed
the
users.
silliest thing, because people are like, we need to get these people off the streets. And when you hear that type of language, you in the documentary 13th, you see it a lot. But basically, there was this whole movement towards law and order. We need to be tough on crime, and that was basically a dog whistle of we need to lock up black people because they're evil. And you can say that's an extreme thing, but if you actually go back and you look at what history has proven time and time again, is that history has always been written by white people. Newspapers were always written by white people. Black people were portrayed as rapists and criminals and all this stuff.
Well, I mean, that was the whole reefer madness was all about like,
and sadly, Reagan and even Bill Clinton are highly responsible for this whole prison industrial complex.
Yep.
And at least Clinton has come back and said that
it was a big mistake.
It was a big mistake.
The biggest mistake of his entire political career.
But it doesn't fix it. And the thing that that the whole kind of point of this that it boils back down to is police are now to finish the story. So Rayshar Brooks dies. The next day, there is a protest that happens at the Wendy's where he got shot. Basically, everyone gathers around and is protesting at this Wendy's. And as day turns into night, as has happened with a lot of these protests, under the veil of night, basically, people start getting more and more rowdy, more and more violent. And basically throughout the day, some people had like set fire to some bushes around the Wendy's, but it hadn't caught on fire. But then at a certain point, people started breaking the windows of the Wendy's. They started firing fireworks into the Wendy's. And this one lady that was pretty masked up started like, I think she might have had like a handkerchief doused in gasoline or something and like threw it in or something
like
weird.
Like a Molotov.
She was trying to like catch the Wendy's actively on fire, not just like blow some fireworks up in it. And that lady has now gotten, she's been detained, I think. But surprise, surprise, it was a white lady with, they identified her with tattoos on her fingers, actually. But it's funny because a lot of people have been talking about, though, that at these protests and stuff, a lot of the law enforcement is like holding back, but you'll see these people with like professional cameras taking like zoomed close up pictures of people's faces and stuff. And like, it's kind of creepy because like they're literally being like, maybe right now you're peaceful, but maybe later you're going to like do something. So they need to have evidence of like every
private
person
investigators, basically.
Yeah. I don't even know if they're private. Like they're just they're police, they're National Guard, whoever. But people have been like, yo, there's people that are like saying they're the press that are just like freaking like taking close up pictures of like everyone.
Like they're going down the line.
Literally, and apparently, like if you try to like cover your face, they're relentless. They'll do a different angle. They'll fixate on you for a while until they get a good picture of you.
And the cops have paintball guns, so then when they shoot you and you're like being rowdy, and they
know that you were one of the ones.
Oh, they mark you.
Like
they mark you with paintball guns.
But
like,
anyways,
that's one of the rowdy ones.
But anyways, to continue,
better paintball guns than real guns, honestly.
True that, but. The whole thing is the Wendy's ended up fully catching on fire. That Wendy's is burned pretty much to the ground. There's still some remnants of it, but I mean it's destroyed. And basically a lot of people again are like, what's the point of these riots, blah blah blah. Some people are like, yo, we burned down the Wendy's because they're the ones who called the cops, and people know. Here's the thing, a lot of people say like, yo, when you call the cops on a black person, you know that
is a high probability.
I don't know about high, but there is a probability that could be a death sentence for that person.
Facts. I mean, what was that lady in New York City who was the bird watcher? She was walking around Central Park with her dog off a leash. The guy was a black guy. He was like, hey, can you put your dog on a leash? And like went to go feed the dog a treat. And then she was like, she called the police and was like, there is a black man who's being very violent to me right now, and he's so aggressive, and I'm feeling attacked, and you better get here now. And she was like intentionally using institutionalized racism to threaten him and intimidate him, to be like, you better get out of here. The police are going to come and they're going to kill you. Like, she was horrible. Literally.
And the sad thing is we've seen an influx of all these Karens. Like, there is a Facebook or an Instagram page I'm following right now. I'll find it real fast, but it's literally just documenting all these crazy ass Karens that are like just being so blatantly racist and saying things like, oh, we don't play these games here. I'm going to call the police and they're going to fucking kill you. Like, did you see the one lady that was being racist to the Asian people?
Oh, yeah. Where she was like, oh, China man. Like,
yeah, literally.
Yeah, and it blew my brain when I was like, do people really talk like that?
She said, we don't play these games around here, China man, or something like that. And he goes, what games? And she goes, the type of games where you get fucked to death.
Yeah.
And she said that to his face. It's like, who says that shit, bro? And that's what I think a lot of people are like, yo, this is Trump's America type thing, because I think people are seeing like blatant racism.
I saw an ad that said, keep America great. And I almost died laughing because I'm like, does he think it's great right now? He made it worse.
Yeah. Well, the thing is for people that are still, you know, cool with like benefiting from a lot of this stuff, it's like, yeah, America's still great, bro. Like
I wouldn't disagree with that.
My life's good. Don't break the law and you won't get arrested. That's simple as that. It's like, that's not really how this works, bro.
I saw one. It was a tweet by some white lady. It was like, don't you know that if you don't break the law, the police don't bother you? And someone replied,
Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her bed.
Breonna Taylor was sleeping.
Yeah, there's a guy, actually, he might be listening to this podcast. He's friends with me. He's a wheelie boy on Facebook that was like talking about it. And
I saw that back and forth that you guys had, and he actually like messaged me on Instagram to let me know that he was going to unfollow me because he didn't like what I was doing. And I was like,
he didn't like what you were doing as far as
okay. Well, I forget the exact language because I don't really like get caught up in what people that don't realize what's going on say. But it was like virtue signaling. Like he said, I was virtue signaling. And then when I was promoting that guy who was building the masks, or building the protest kits, he thought that I was profiting off this. He's like, you profiting off this is reprehensible, and you're just out here virtue signaling and trying to. And I'm like, it's like, it's obvious. You're accusing me of things that I'm not doing, so therefore it's pretty obvious to me that you don't know what I'm doing. So if you're going to accuse me of something that I'm not doing, I'm just going to say, okay, have a nice life, because you think I'm doing something that I'm not. So
here's the thing with virtue signaling, because I definitely am a person that looks at a lot of things that happen and I go, oh, he's just virtue signaling. And basically that would be calling out things just for the sake of calling them out. Like, you know, even things that are just blatantly obvious. Like for example, there's this one guy I follow on Facebook, and he's always just posting about, you know, injustice and things that are wrong about the world and how this guy, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I get it. Those are bad for sure. But at the end of the day, you saying the basis of your message is racism is bad, rape is bad. It's like, yeah, we all know that. And if you don't, you're a fucking idiot. And there are some people in America right now, they're showing their ugly heads that they are just being blatantly racist. And
you remember Brock Turner, the guy who raped a unconscious girl behind a dumpster, and he got 90 days.
Yeah, and the judge basically said this guy's got a bright future.
He's a good kid. He's got a bright future. He's a good swimmer. And it's like, I'm sorry.
Well, I saw a thing, and it was basically like when black people, we'll say rape because that was the instance. When black people rape, they say all the bad things that he was when white people rape, they say all the things that he could become. And that's such a non-blatant statement and not a blanket statement that you can make. Because, I mean, obviously, justice has been served in a lot of situations. I'm not saying like, oh, if you're a white guy and you rape someone, you're just going to get away with it. But like, there is a lot of instances where it's cognitive bias, where you're going to see what you want to see. You're going to look at George Floyd and say, oh, well, look at him. He's a convicted felon. He was on drugs. He put a gun up to a pregnant lady's belly, blah, blah, blah. He's actually a bad person. I don't disagree with you. But did he deserve to die? No. Like, the thing is like, I think as
people that are judged by their past, when their past had nothing to do with what happened, makes me scratch my head a lot.
Well, here's the thing, dude. Like, you have a crazy ass past, but now you're living a great, fulfilling life helping people.
But so do you think, like,
should you be canceled for all the things that you did?
No, but let's hypothetically say I was black and let's say I got killed. Would people be like talking about what I'm up to now? Or would they be like, well, he was a this and he was a that,
drug
and he has a record of that, and
And if you look at his criminal record, he did this, this, and this, and one time he went on a wild police chase and ran over a bunch of mailboxes, and he could have killed someone.
You know what's crazy? Even after all my mess that I've been through,
no criminal record,
no felonies, no criminal record, no nothing. But I think one of the big reasons was the cop that was chasing me on that chase, when he arrested me, saw how mentally like messed up I was and was like, ooh, this guy needs help.
But here's the thing, is like, you see you and they go, and
it was a black cop though. He pulled his gun on me. It was
and again, I'm
only
not,
time I've had a gun pulled on me.
I'm only using this as like a point of debate, not really like this is what happened. But you said he did pull a gun or he didn't?
He did. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I had windows smashed out of my vehicle. He thought I was shooting out of the Jeep.
Yeah.
Like, he thought that I was like driving through these lawns and like running over mailboxes and like doing donuts in the street and like then running away from him at a high speed. Like, I would pull my gun on me too.
But the thing is he saw you and he goes, this guy needs help. I think someone else could see you and go, oh, this guy's cracked out on drugs. He could have a gun. I need, and they get scared, whatever. You make one sudden move and boom, they kill you. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it that cops need to defend themselves, but I think there is, again, it kind of goes back to this whole point of like, I think there's a better way of policing and a better way of public safety. And I'm not saying we should have no form of like gun carrying law enforcement like that. That is a thing, because at the end of the day, when someone doesn't comply, the only way to get someone to ultimately comply is to use physical force
to disable
and
them,
detain them. And I think it's a tough question, and it's a tough thing that, it's making a lot of people uncomfortable right now, and it's making a lot of people feel guilty about certain things, and it's making people feel, again, uncomfortable. Like police officers, there's a video of a police officer that had a breakdown in a McDonald's drive-thru because she ordered a simple breakfast and it wasn't ready when she got to the window. They told her to pull up, and she said she waited and waited and waited and waited, and finally they like brought her a coffee, and they were still waiting on her like sandwich or whatever. But she was so paranoid that they were like fucking with her food or like poisoning her food or something that she freaked out and said, "Don't bother bringing the food. This is enough," and like drove away. And she didn't even like. I don't even know if she drank her coffee or not or whatever, but she like filmed a video like having like visibly panicked. And it's like, I can't even like be a cop and not be like, I have so much anxiety about like everyone around me, because it seems like everyone hates cops right now. And on one hand, I feel for her because she's just simply doing her job.
Yeah, it's complicated. Like, there's even like the extreme violent activist type, anarchist type people are creating like address lists and like hit lists and like members of family lists. So it's like, oh, you want to go kill a few cops? Here's their address. Here's their work schedule. Here's where their kids go to school.
Dude, here's
like,
the thing.
It's kind of,
you know what I
agree. It's kind of terrifying being a cop
but you know
right now.
But you know what else is terrifying? Yeah. You know what else is terrifying? Getting involved with police and then maybe doing something intentionally or unintentionally that pisses them off. Like, for example, I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I've been thinking about it for a while. I want to bring back the Andrew Deitch podcast for a little bit. I want to like have conversations about these types of topics. I was like, what if I had a police officer on? But then I thought, what if that police officer said some stuff that the rest of the police didn't really like? What if then they said something that, or maybe I was pushing too hard, or maybe I was pushing an agenda that they didn't really like, or maybe I have the cop on and then later I say something else about it and they decide that they don't really like. Maybe my thing goes viral for some reason and goes all over. And then what if police decide that they want to come sit outside my door and say, oh, there was a call about a disturbance. What's going on here? Oh, and oh, there was a thing going on here, and they just want to sit outside my house and harass me for whatever reason. Like there's nothing really stopping them from doing that. They can be bullies if they want to.
Because they enforce the law, they can almost be above the law.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they're basically like organized mobs. Like they can
mafiosa.
They can. But like group together and like ruin people's lives. And like that is what is very terrifying is like for so long in America, I think as for me, for example, I did not see the police as a group of people that could ruin your life or like terrorize you or like
black people feel that all the time, all day, every day.
That's what I'm saying. And it's not all black people either. Like I'm not saying that this is a blanket statement, but I'm saying for some people in some communities, the police are literally a mob that terrorizes their neighborhood constantly.
I saw.
I mean, shit, dude. Like, I mean, I thought about it. It's like, dude, I've got, if the police randomly decided they wanted to storm my house, they'd probably find something, like like there's
after the fact.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the real thing about like with policing that we really need to take a big step back as society and go, hey, I think we've given these guys too many responsibilities. There's no reason why this mob with guns should be responding to a guy in a drive-through, in a Wendy's drive-through that's asleep and not be the first thing trying to figure out how to help this guy. Like obviously there's something wrong. I think we need to come from a standpoint of kindness first. Like the officers, I think I've heard stories of like, someone driving drunk and all the friends in the car, the police officer let them all blow until someone blew good enough that they could drive and they go, okay, you're good enough to drive. You get in the driver's seat and you drive home and you never do this again. I'm letting you guys off with a warning. And
I've gotten off with so many warnings in my lifetime.
Dude, yeah. And it's
so
like,
many warnings.
They could have literally been like, okay, tell you what, this is a rental car. You're going to park it right here. I'm going to drive you home. And in the morning when you're sober enough, you're going to come back and get this, but don't let this happen again. That could have easily happened. And I'm not saying that should have happened. He was driving drunk. The punishment for that is to go to jail. But the thing is like, again, it was like a victimless crime at that point. Nothing had happened up to that point. We don't convict people on suspicion that they're going to do something bad or on suspicion that they're going to go kill someone. They are guilty until they're innocent until proven guilty type of situation. And yeah, in that situation, Rayshar Brooks was drunk, so it might not be the most crystal clear example, but there are so many examples that are coming to light right now. And I think it's a big time in our history where as a society, we need to take a real big step back and go, yo, we've given these people way too much power and we need to rethink how we can actually do this in a positive way. Because if you play the situation all the way out to the end game, you put Rayshar Brooks in prison. What good is that doing? You just left his wife and kids at home with one less way of having mouths to feed. What happens to them in society? Are those people now going to be great members of society? Probably not, because when you are poor and impoverished and you don't have money, you are desperate, and you become a part of society that is not always positive. And I'm not saying that has anything to do with race. That's just a fact, dude. Like there's a lot of white people that are not good for society, bro. Like there's a lot of there's all kinds of people that are not good for society. But a lot of times the reason why that happens is because they don't have the resources to get out. And people always talk about bootstrapping and all that, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, I guess the final point is, when you put someone in jail, what are you doing to benefit society? Are you just locking these people up in cages because you say this person is not fit to be in society anymore? No, dude. Rayshar Brooks didn't even deserve. I don't think he deserves to go to jail. I think he probably needs to go to a couple of DUI classes. They need to say, hey,
pay
look,
some
man,
fines.
you could have. Look, man, like you didn't kill anyone, but you could have. Maybe make him go to a class, show him videos of like all this stuff. Maybe end up going to a prison and talking to someone who was involved in a DUI accident where someone did get killed. All those types of things. I think that would really, get in his brain, set him on the right path and be like, dude, you're right. I'm never drinking and driving again. Scare him straight type of thing.
Yeah.
But he did not deserve to die.
Yeah. To touch back kind of on what we're
running out of time.
We're so out of time. But to touch back just really quickly on what we were talking about, questioning your values. I think currently as a country, I think as a society, we are all questioning our values, and especially our values around governments and our government institutions. Like totally. we're really going, what the hell are these people doing? Why have we given them so much power? Like we need to unconsolidate this. We need to figure stuff out. We need to vote differently. We need to put the right people in. We need to take the wrong people out. Yada 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 yada. Like we're really questioning our values. So,
we're living through a historical event for sure.
Yeah, we're very historical event, and this is one of the things that like when a lot of people are like critical of people speaking out about it, it's like, dude, I know where I want to be on this side of history. Like, I want to be proud that when my kids ask about this, I can be like, oh, I did as much as I could. Like,
for sure.
I have no shame when people are like dissing me on that. I'm like, have fun being on the wrong side.
And like AJ was talking about, like one of his friends spoke out and people were like, yo, but you're saying this, but you're not actually putting actions behind words. Yo, fuck you. Because here's the thing. Tides are starting to change. You don't know where people are on their journey of like wokeness or whatever you want to call it. Don't criticize people on their action. You can criticize them on their inaction. Like if they're not doing anything or whatever, you can be like, yo, dude, like what the heck? You're not, blah, blah, blah. But if it seems like they're trying to make an effort, if it seems like they're maybe changing their mindset, maybe they're changing their thought patterns or whatever, that's a good thing. And the thing is that like people are talking about like allyship and how to be a good ally. Everyone's on like on a different journey with that. And so you have to realize like no one's going to become like a hardcore woke master BLM expert overnight. And the way that you get people to not like support you is to like criticize them for trying, like, oh, well, you're going to, don't criticize people for saying the wrong thing or whatever. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sticking around the extra time. Hope you enjoyed it.
Follow us on places.
See ya.